Hey guys, Chris here. Today we're going to do a auto dripper build on the Steam Turbine. Um, a lot of people, a lot of people use these. They're pretty popular, especially with the clones out now. It's a great tank. It's set up so you can run dual wick on it. The thing that I don't like about this device is that the wick holes are really small. Unless you're using mesh, it's really hard to get good wicking on them. And of course, I like to do auto drippers, so today we're going to do an EcoWool auto dripper on the Steam Turbine. And what we're going to do is I'm going to run dual wicks with a single coil, and I'm really going to set this up for variable devices. It may work great on a mechanical, but because I have small wick holes, I've got small wick, I'm going to be running EcoWool. What I'm going to try and do is set this up so that it has a lot of wicking, which means I'm going to run a higher resistance coil on it. That being said, let's get started. What I'm going to need today is a nice strand of 1mm EcoWool. I'm also going to take a little short strand of 1mm EcoWool and 2 paper clips, torch, pliers, screwdriver, all those fun things. Okay guys, let's get started here. We're going to go ahead and build our wick and wrap our coil first. What I'm going to do is take the 2 paper clips I have and gently just thread the EcoWool onto them. Go ahead and do that from both sides. And the thing with the 1mm Eco is it chokes off really easy, and obviously it doesn't hold much juice. So if you're chain vaping, or you like those big long hits, a lot of times your coils will get hot and you'll get dry hits. So what I'm going to do, now that I have this on the paper clip, I'm going to just double that up. You see the little Z shape there, so I've got some overlap. And that's going to give me a spot to actually help hold more juice. And just because I'm actually going to take a little bit of extra EcoWool, and I'm going to wrap it up inside of this coil here. So I'm going to take another short piece. And like I said, that's just acting as a little bit of a reservoir underneath the coil for that juice. So now I'm going to pinch that all together into a nice little bundle, and I'm going to wrap my coil around that. So, since I didn't prep and cut my wire before I did this, I'll cut myself some piece of wire real quick. And let's see if we can't get about 8 wraps on this. The other thing the paper clips are going to do for us is I really like to have those in there when I'm wrapping my coils, because what that means is when I get done wrapping my coil and I take those paper clips out, I know I'm going to have some breathing room inside there. Now these are going to have long legs on them, so to keep the legs from getting hot, I really want to do contact coils. I want to make sure all my loops are touching. I want to make sure they're all nice and firm to the wick. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll take this side, and 1. Like I said, I want to make them nice and neat. 2, 3, 4. And so when all is said and done, what it looks like is I've got a little bow tie here. As you can see, I got a little gap in my coils. I'll go ahead and hit that with the needle nose after I torch it. But so basically we've got a little bow. Once that's all said and done the way I want to, again, I'm just going to hit this with the torch. And what that's going to do is a couple things. It's going to keep it nice and solid for me. We'll go ahead and torch our coil while we're in here. But when we pull the paper clip out, we want to keep the tube. We want to keep that hollow in the middle so it's got plenty of room for the juice to travel. Now, we want to give this just a minute to cool down. As soon as it's cool, we're just going to take the paper clips out. Easiest way to do that is just simply hold it and wait for that to cool down and slide it off. So again, there's our coil. Now what I'm going to do is, now that we've got that a little stiffer, in order to make that go through the wick holes easy, I'm going to just cut the ends off at a nice little angle. I don't know if you can see that, but you know, to give it a nice little points to make it easier to thread my wick in. Now we're ready to go ahead and put it in the device. What I'm going to do is take my coil, and now I'm just going to put this in the steam turbine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use those two closest wick holes. Normally, if I was doing dual coil, I'd be using the other ones. But in this case, I really want the, I want to center that wick on there. And what I'm going to do is just bend this in a nice little U with my points down and slide those in the hole. And there you go. I left these a little long. It's not going to hurt to have some extra wick down in the bottom there. So what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and mount my coil once I get this set up. I actually think I'm going to trim these down just a little bit here, just to make it easier to get in for the sake of the video. Get my angle here. The problem with these is if you hit the side, it will start to fray a little bit, so you want to just try and get it in there clean, like I did the first time. Just trim this just a little bit more. There we go. So, once we get that in there clean, we can go ahead and get this in here and start to mount our coil. With this, depending on how you build your wick, it really doesn't matter which side we mount the bottom to. But I'm just going to go ahead and mount, in this case, the top wire first. We'll get it in between those washers. Tighten that down. Then I'll go ahead and come over here and mount my negative. On this device, There's not a lot of insulator at the bottom post. I always want to go on the outside of the screw, not the inside. And what I do is I just bend it an L and tighten that down. So now you can see I've got the coil centered between the two with the wicks running down in. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and check the resistance on this. And try and clean this up just a little bit. Make sure we don't have anything shorting out before I trim my leads. And I'm going to go ahead and retighten that, since apparently it fell out. So again, do my top post. I just love when I make mistakes on video. It'll keep you guys entertained. Okay, so now that's all screwed down. That's screwed down. Still giving me a random number for resistance. That means I'm probably touching my top post here, which is really the danger with this build. You always want to take a look. I've just got a really fine screwdriver. I run it in there just to make sure that that coil's in no way touching the top post. If it is, it's not going to fire. Okay. Okay, so I had a little technical difficulty. My Vamo top pin wasn't making good contact with this particular device. As you can see, I went ahead and got it in there. It's at, in my ohm meter, it's at 1.72. Might be a little higher than I wanted it, but certainly not bad if we're going to go in a variable device. And all I'm going to do now before we put juice in this and fire it is just trim up these loose ends here a little bit without cutting my wire. Obviously trim my wires down. And now I'm going to go ahead and get a fill and put some juice in this. And I guess since it doesn't like my Vamo, we'll go ahead and try this in the VTR and see what it fires like. The other thing we're going to want to do when we fill this, because this stuff does wick a little slow, is I always cheat and put a few drops of juice right on the top of the coil just to get that primed. And we'll just go ahead and top that off with juice real quick. Alright, and now let me grab my VTR here. And my adapter. And we'll go ahead and test it here. We've got it at 11 watts. And as you can see, firing away. I'm not getting any red on my coils. My wick's not drying out at all. I can probably actually turn this up a little bit. It's showing right at 1.5 ohms. We'll take it up to 13. Again, nice, crackling away. At 13, I'm starting to get a little bit of glow to my center coil, so 11's probably about where I'm going to want to keep this. I hope that helps you guys. It's going to make a nice clean vape, good flavor. If you're bored and want to try something new, give it a shot. Thanks, guys.